Hey Bulls and Bears, you're watching Bull, Boom, Bear, Bust. It is Tuesday, November 16th, 2021. Thank you for being here. I wanted to make this video today. I wanted to share some news that I found with you and wanted to kind of paint the picture on the direction that I think we're headed. And it's not a good one. I wish I had better news, but at least if you're here listening to this news, we're going to be ready for what's ahead of us. It may not always be good news. It really is good news. If you're just someone sitting back and expecting things to get better, it's not good news. If you're someone that's ahead of the game, on top of it, you know what's happening, you know what's coming, then you're going to be ahead of the game. So maybe this is good news to you. Let's get into some information here. Now, first of all, we're headed into, I think, one of the worst crises that I've ever lived through in my years, and probably even if you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s, unless you lived through the Great Depression, maybe this will be worse than the Great Depression, because everything right now is so detached from any sort of fundamentals, from any sort of rational reasoning. Let's take a look at this chart here with the stock market. We're also going to give you some homeless news, and also gas prices hit a record high here in California. We see more food companies raising prices. We're going to get into all that here in just a few minutes. So just to give you a visual of how detached everything is right now from any sort of reality, here is the S&P 500 market cap as percentage of GDP. And we see we're up here to the far right, over 170%. So we look back here at the 2000 stock market bubble. We look back at the financial crisis. And in hindsight, we all agree that those were times when everything was overvalued. But now we're way beyond even what we acknowledge as being in a massive bubble with hindsight. But yet no one is expecting a pullback. No one expects anything to change. And I hear from investors and people that are all in on these markets. That means that if something does happen, if something reverses the situation right now where we see bubble on top of bubble, then people are going to be in a very, very tough position. So please let me know, does that chart look like any reason to be cautious in these markets right now? Now, before we move on to the next article, I just want to say thank you to those of you that let me know that I got a little shout out from another channel. And I also want to thank Jeremiah Babe. Here's his channel. He gave me a shout out in one of his videos. And while I was looking through the videos to see what he talked about, I got some good information. So I'm really glad I tuned into his channel again. But thank you to Jeremiah Babe for giving me that mention. But he reminded me in one of his videos what the median income is in the United States. And when you look at it compared to home prices and all the other costs that we see, it's pretty ridiculous and it's pretty out of whack, and there's no fundamentals to anything that we're seeing right now. Here is a chart here out of the Fed here. Income at about $35,000 right now for median income in the United States. And that's if you're lucky enough to have a job. I say lucky, but a lot of these jobs are not paying enough to keep up with the cost of living. Some of the bigger companies and corporations can afford to give raises, and they're not giving wages high enough to match inflation. Other small businesses, 8 out of 10 fail within 5 years. Even if they tried, they couldn't give raises big enough to match the rising cost of living. So we have big problems here in this country, people, and things are not looking to be changing anytime soon as far as I can see. Please let me know what you think down in the comments. But when you see the household income or individual income at about $35,000, when you see home prices approaching $400,000 now median, even higher in some areas, what is going to happen here? Is there going to be a breaking point? We see debt rising again, and there's only so many things people can do to keep their head above water for so long. They can refinance their home, they can borrow against their home, they can run up more debt, more credit card debt, but eventually something has to give. The question is when and how bad will it be? That is the real question in my opinion. But the financial pain for a lot of people is just getting started. If you're someone that has to commute a long distance for your job, or if you're someone that's running kids back and forth to school, maybe several trips a day, to school, from school, and back, take a look at this. California hits all-time high gas prices, and it's going up wherever you look, but in California it's especially going up. Let's take a look at this latest chart here out of GasBuddy.com. We're seeing over a 7-year, close to an 8-year high here. This is the median gas price nationwide, or the average rather. Now let's add in San Diego, and you can show, and I'll show you some of the pain that we've been feeling out here. I thank goodness every day that I work at home, but you see this surge to the far right here actually going up much faster than the national average. We're up to about $4.63 a gallon right here. I filled up my tank just a few days ago. It's not a big tank. It's a medium-sized vehicle, SUV. It's a Honda Pilot, and it wasn't even completely empty, and it was close to $80 to fill up my tank. So I thank goodness every day again that I work at home. A lot of people are not so lucky, and when you look at the cost of gas and how much it costs to get back and forth now, could that be another reason why so many people are checking out of the labor force? I think that's part of the puzzle. I definitely think that's part of the puzzle. It gets to a point when you add up all the expenses of owning a vehicle, the energy, the insurance, and you go to a job that's barely going to pay enough to pay your rent. If you're lucky, you might have to have a couple roommates. You might have to have 2 jobs. You might have to have multiple incomes just to afford the average rent in most cities now. It's what it seems. Unless you bought a home several years ago when prices were actually sort of aligned with fundamentals, then you're going to have a very, very difficult time moving forward. And it doesn't look like this is going to change. I mean, let me know if gas prices are going to drop and why they're going to drop. But I don't see anything on the horizon at all that's going to have gas prices come back down to earth. But if you know, by all means, give us some good news. Please comment down below. I'm just reporting it the way I see it here. Now, we know that home prices are pushing more people onto the street. The economic situation, the high cost of living, pushing people onto the street. Now we see a homeless shelter opening up on Billionaires Row, and this is in Manhattan, New York. Now, the people that live around this area were trying to block this from happening, but this is a hotel that's now going to be a homeless shelter. All right, and that's a big problem that we have here. We have a lot of abandoned buildings, and in some cases, the people that live in the area, they don't want the homeless shelter to move in there because it's going to bring in a lot of other elements that people really, may not want in their neighborhood. And people are complaining that it's going to bring their home values down. But what do? Do you leave an empty hotel just going to waste? Or do you get some of these people off the street and put them in the hotel? But it's interesting that this particular hotel, the shelter now, it's going to be a homeless shelter, opened up on Billionaires Row in New York. And I can see both sides of the argument. I mean, I wouldn't want a homeless shelter right next to my house. But at the same time, if you can have an empty building, get somebody off the street and help somebody get maybe a little bit warmer and a roof over their head, what do you do? So please let me know what you think down in comments about that. And what about all these other commercial buildings that are going to be vacant here? The health crisis doesn't seem to be letting up. And, what's going to happen? Is it going to be homeless shelters everywhere because no one can afford a home? If not, give us the good news down below. Where does it end? You let me know what's going to reverse the situation. I'd really like to hear it. And if you give me legitimate news, not just your opinion, but legitimate news, facts, data, I will report on it right here. And I'll be glad to report some good news if you let me know what it is. Next, more rising prices. Tyson Foods. Tyson Foods plans further price hikes to offset inflation pressures. All right, so these companies, they're paying higher energy costs. They're paying more labor costs are going up. People are demanding higher wages, and prices are just going to go up. And your chicken dinner, your chicken tenders, what have you, expect to pay a lot more. To me, it's looking more and more like the best move might be out to the country somewhere where you can have your own chickens, you can have some animals, get your own eggs in the morning. But it's kind of a conundrum because the further you get out into the country, the harder it is to find a job. If you can live off the land and not have to have a regular job and just live making, whatever you produce on your own property, that would be ideal. But it's getting nearly impossible to do that. Just look at all the farmers that are not making it right now. There's a lot of challenges out there, folks, and I'd say buckle up because things are looking like they're headed in the wrong direction still. We've got this huge infrastructure package. Of course, the people that voted on it and put it out there, they're saying this is going to help. It's going to lower inflation. Other people say that spending, there's no way it could ever make inflation better. It's just going to make prices go up higher and faster. But please let us know what you think about that. The infrastructure bill, the homeless situation with these vacant hotels, the gas prices, what are you seeing in your area? Are you having to commute back and forth? Is it causing you a lot of pain in your wallet? Please let us know. But thanks for watching this report. One final note here. Over at the blog, we've got a new article out from one of our contributors. And this was put out here by one of our contributors. Will Amazon's 1.29 million employees still have their jobs or be replaced by robotics? We're seeing a big push now with companies going more towards robotics, and actually a record increase in robotics being implemented in the workplaces. And with the health crisis, that only looks like it's going to get even bigger as far as a percentage of the labor force, and that's going to be less people needed. And looks like people are choosing not to work, so the robot workforce and the automated workforce, they're not going to need to worried about the health crisis. So check out that article, link down below. It's over at the blog. Please let me know what you think about this. How are you doing? Hope you're all doing well. Keep stacking, keep preparing, stay well, stay safe, stay prepared. Bye for now, everybody. Peace.